Hi, and welcome back to Nadia's Identity Files. I have with me now Chris Weisheg, also known as Danny Wild. Did I butcher your name?
Probably. It's Christopher Seisheg. Chris is fine. You can go.
Did I do a W? You know what? It's because I'll be honest, I have another Chris that I'm working with right now, Chris Wersig. Shout out Chris Wersig. He did my song for my show. So I'm mixing up all of my German and Austrian background friends here. So let me correct myself. Christopher Zeischeg, also known as Danny Wild, here with me today. Thank you for being here.
Excited? Thank you for having me. Yes, very excited.
Wonderful. So today we're going to talk about, continue the conversation about identity in the context of the adult entertainment industry, because I feel like it's a conversation that doesn't happen enough. And I noticed that you're writing both fiction and the essays that you've written really explore just the complexities of the this industry with regard to yourself and just in general. And I want to commend you for that work. It's really, really wonderful.
Thank you.
So if we're going to be talking about all of your professional identities, obviously you have quite a few. You went from working, actually you were a film student, yeah? And then you segued into the adult entertainment industry, and then you became a musician and, of course, an essayist and an author of now 2 books and another one coming out next year, right?
Yes.
Wonderful. And a filmmaker. So how do you feel like these identities kind of cooperate with one another, and also have the transition from identity to identity been somewhat like emotionally challenging or invigorating? Can you just go into that a little bit?
Well, in a certain way, I think they're just like a matter of necessity. I mean, starting at the beginning, like, I wanted to get out of my hometown and study film because that sounded fun. So I was somewhat academic, so I got to move to LA. And once I was in school, I realized like I need to figure out how to pay for this. And,
right.
I was young and at a time in my life when I was pretty much down to do anything. And the more kind of like transgressive it seemed in my head, that was like better. So just fucking around on, can we say that?
It's too late now.
I'm sorry.
But you know what? Go for it. Let her rip. We're online. We're not on on the radio.
Yeah, so like, porn was something that I thought could be like a one-time weird experience, and ended up being a career while I was in school, and when I got out of school, continued to be a career for some time. And I had sort of mixed feelings about it, but in the way that like it became a job to me, in a lot of the things about having just a job or that thing that pays your bills that isn't fulfilling to like the other parts of your life. Like I still needed to do things like write and make music and so forth. And, a couple of those have started to become like professional identities, I guess. Like I get paid now to write, and that's great. And I can put out a book like every other year, I guess, so far.
That's wonderful. You just said that you feel like they're professional identities now because you're making money. You've been able to monetize them. Do you think that in order for an identity to be professional, there has to be money involved?
I mean, not necessarily, though. I can't really think of a way in which that's not the case. I mean, you can take on an identity like that. Like, if you write all the time and it's out there and people are reading it, and even if you aren't getting paid for it, I guess you can call yourself a writer or anything else. And I did for a long time, I guess, inside my head. And it's not like I make a substantial amount of money. I still don't make my living from writing or from music or anything like that. But I think I'm at least...
You will.
Well, fingers crossed. Thanks. Yeah, it's just something that I need to do to feel good about my life. I don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, as long as you're feeling that passion, I say, embrace those identities wholeheartedly. Even if, that goes for anybody, even if you're not able to monetize your passion, if you're doing it on the regular, like you just said, and, people are consuming whatever it is you're putting out there, then I feel like that's something that you can wholeheartedly embrace. So for sure. So, in terms of your exit from the porn industry, that happened somewhat abruptly. Do you feel like that was difficult to kind of separate yourself out of emotionally, intellectually? Do you still, in some ways, think of yourself as Danny Wilde? I noticed that you always, quite often, it's a Chris followed by the AKA.
Right.
Is that just to make sure that people know, like, oh, this is the same person?
Yeah. Well, let's start from base one.
Oh, shit.
So I got out of the industry pretty much overnight. It was a weird thing. I've talked about this a lot in other platforms, but I'll just mention it briefly. I had gotten addicted to like erectile dysfunction drugs as like a performance enhancer that like pretty much every guy in the adult industry takes those because it's like, just think about like professional athletes taking steroids to perform at a higher level. Porn is like, you need to have an erection like clockwork.
Right. So it's not natural to, otherwise without it.
So like after 8 years of doing that, I had a medical scare, which the doctor said you need to knock this off. So I had to, which meant that I probably wasn't that good at porn naturally. And I just stopped. And yeah, that was hard for me emotionally for a number of reasons. I mean, the most obvious was just like losing my job overnight, and especially a job I'd had for close to a decade. These days, I mean, it's been like 3 years since that happened. These days, I don't have as close of an attachment to like Danny Wilde. I think the reason I keep that name is because it's not doing a whole lot like for me other than on like a social media platform. You know what I mean? Like Pornhub exists. There are videos of me that have like 10 million views. I don't make any money from that. But like a few of those people will like be like, oh, I like that guy. I'm gonna go check out what else he's doing.
Right.
They probably don't give a shit that I'm writing books, but maybe they'll like follow me on Instagram, and maybe like one of those people will like my writing. Otherwise, they'll just like be like, I love your cock over and over again, or send me like weird DMs, and that's fine too.
Right.
But it's a way to still interact with the public, and I don't know, maybe part of that's just narcissistic, but I like to keep it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense, and we can probably hone in on this a little bit in our social media consult portion of today's segment, but I understand, like, it's kind of like now you feel somewhat glued to that name because of the social media aspect, because we're so much locked in the digital sphere and everything's out there.
Right.
But there's really nothing necessarily wrong with that, other than the fact it's just like probably somewhat overwhelming at times, perhaps, with those DMs that you're talking about, those special messages from people.
Sure.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about an essay that I read that she wrote, which was marvelous, entitled On the Moral Imperative to Commodify Our Sexual Suffering. Now, if that's not an amazing title, I don't know what it is. I found it to be very dark, haunting, but also I felt like you really interwove feelings of vulnerability throughout that essay. And so, I mean, that's what made it so poignant. Where did that title come from, and what is like the message that you're really trying to convey with that essay?
I don't remember exactly where the title came from, other than it was just trying to talk about the content, which is the financial decline of sex work since I've been in it, and just overall, meaning that because of the free availability of porn, because of these kind of new media outlets that talk about sex work and porn in a kind of blasé way, I think even though there's a stigma attached to it, we now have people that think it's just normal and not valuable, like any kind of media. Like people don't pay for shit anymore, and that's the same with sex work. I mean, they do a little bit, obviously, or all of us would be out of business. But there's something that I had thought about entering sex work. There was an argument I had a lot of the times that, like, sure, we are exploiting our bodies for profit, but we're able to kind of bring ourselves up a little bit more than like any other service job, because we make a little bit more money. We have the time to do these other things with our lives, and that's actually kind of empowering. But when you start to have those profit margins fall apart, and it's just basically like working a shitty office job, but you're putting your body and emotions on the line constantly, that's very draining. And I wrote that at a time in my life when I was experiencing, like financial devastation on some forms. Like I was probably not in a great emotional point in my life, and was trying to deal with like post-porn sex work to get myself out of little holes I was in. And yeah, that's...
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, because everything is so easy to consume now. I mean, that really is taking away from artists in many contexts. They're from their income and from just their reputability. I mean, it's just like we're totally swamped with media of every canon. So I totally get it.
All right.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, before we seg you to our next segment, which is going to be the on-air consult, can you tell us really quickly about your band, your metal band? It's Children, yeah?
Yeah, Children with Two Eyes, CHIILDREN. You can look it up on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. It's like industrial metal. If you're into that, you should like it.
Are you touring anywhere at all? Or?
Not right now, no.
No?
but we probably will be doing some stuff in early 2017. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it. We'll be right back.